The silent return Marcus Kane pulled his maintenance jacket tighter as the cold Martian wind howled through the docking bay. The massive cargo ship Defiant loomed before him like a metal mountain, its hull scarred by micrometeorites and battle damage. 3 months ago, this vessel had departed with a crew of 47 humans and 12 alien allies from the Vorth Confederation. Now it drifted back to Mars Station Omega completely silent, responding only to automated docking protocols. Control, this is Kane. Beginning external inspection of the Defiant, Marcus spoke into his comm unit. His breath formed small clouds in the thin atmosphere as he approached the ship's airlock. 20 years as a deep space mechanic had taught him to trust his instincts, and right now every instinct screamed danger. The airlock cycled open with a mechanical wheeze. Emergency lighting cast eerie red shadows through the corridors as Marcus stepped inside. His boots echoed against metal grating as he made his way toward the bridge. Personal belongings lay scattered everywhere, data pads, clothing, half-eaten meals frozen in time. Whatever had happened here, it had been sudden. "Hello? Anyone aboard?" His voice bounced off empty walls. The silence felt heavy, oppressive. Marcus checked his scanner readings. Atmospheric composition was normal, gravity generators functioning, life support operational. The ship was perfectly fine mechanically, but completely devoid of human or alien life. The bridge door slid open with a soft hiss. Captain Rodriguez's chair sat empty, a cup of coffee still on the armrest. Frozen solid, the navigation console showed their last recorded position near the edge of Zephyrian space, where humanity's expansion had met fierce resistance from an unknown alien force. Marcus accessed the ship's logs through his maintenance override codes. The final entry was from First Officer Janet Mills, her voice tight with controlled panic. "Unknown vessels approaching. They're not responding to any communication protocols. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Captain Rodriguez is ordering all non-essential personnel to evacuation pods. We're going to try to buy them time to escape." The recording cut to static. Marcus felt a chill that had nothing to do with the Martian cold. He pulled up the ship's sensor logs from that final day. The readings showed 15 massive vessels surrounding the Defiant, each one 3 times larger than humanity's biggest dreadnought. But there was something else in the data, something that made his blood run cold. The attacking ships hadn't fired conventional weapons. Instead, they had used some kind of energy beam that seemed to remove things, not destroy them, not vaporize them, but simply make them cease to exist. The crew hadn't been killed, they had been erased, leaving behind only their belongings and the ship itself. Marcus realized he might be looking at humanity's first encounter with something far more advanced and terrifying than anything they had ever imagined. And somehow, the Defiant had escaped to bring this warning home. The message in the code Marcus spent the next hour systematically checking every compartment on the Defiant. The crew quarters told stories of interrupted lives. Chief Engineer Tommy Wright's toolbox sat open beside a half-repaired plasma conduit. Communications Officer Lisa Park's family photos were scattered across her desk, and Dr. Kevin Hayes's medical bay showed signs of hasty preparation for casualties that never came. But it was in the ship's computer core that Marcus found what he was looking for. Hidden within the maintenance subroutines was a heavily encrypted file that shouldn't have been there. His mechanical background included enough programming knowledge to recognize a desperate improvisation when he saw one. Someone had embedded this data in the ship's basic operational code, hoping it would survive whatever was coming. The decryption took 30 minutes of careful work. When the file finally opened, Marcus found himself staring at video footage from the ship's external cameras. The recording showed the final moments of the battle, if it could even be called that. The attacking vessels looked like living things, rather than constructed ships. Their hulls rippled and flowed like liquid metal, and they moved with an organic grace that no mechanical system could achieve. But most disturbing were the beams they fired, streams of pure nothingness that erased. Whatever they touched from existence itself, Captain Rodriguez's voice came through the recording. They're not trying to destroy us. They're studying us, testing our responses, our technology, our tactics. This isn't a battle, it's an examination. The video showed escape pods launching from the Defiant, carrying most of the crew to safety, but the alien vessels ignored the fleeing humans entirely, focusing their attention on the ship itself. One by one, sections of the Defiant simply vanished under the alien beams. Weapon systems, shield generators, crew quarters. They were being systematically dismantled and analyzed. Then something unexpected happened. Chief Engineer Wright appeared on the bridge, having stayed behind to implement some kind of desperate plan. His fingers flew over the engineering console as he spoke rapidly to Captain Rodriguez. I've rigged the quantum drive to create a localized space-time distortion. It should look like we've been destroyed while actually folding us out of normal space. One shot only, and we'll be running blind until we can find our way back. The recording showed the alien vessels suddenly reacting to something, their attention shifting away from the Defiant. In that moment of distraction, Wright activated his makeshift escape system. Reality seemed to bend around the ship as it slipped between dimensions, vanishing from the alien senses. Marcus realized he was watching something unprecedented. A human engineer, outsmarting a technologically superior alien force through pure improvisation and desperate creativity. Wright had saved the ship and its precious cargo of information about humanity's new enemy, but the final timestamp on the recording was 3 months ago. Where had the crew gone? And why had the ship returned to Mars alone? The survivor's tail Marcus was studying the engineering logs when he heard it, a faint tapping sound coming from somewhere deep in the ship's hull. His heart raced as he grabbed a plasma cutter and followed the sound through maintenance corridors he hadn't explored yet. The tapping was rhythmic, deliberate. Someone was alive on this ship. The sound led him to a sealed storage compartment in the ship's lower levels. When Marcus cut through the emergency locks, the door slid open to reveal Chief Engineer Tommy. Wright, unconscious but breathing. The man's uniform was torn and stained, his face gaunt from weeks of survival on emergency rations. Medical scanners showed severe malnutrition and exhaustion, but he was alive. Wright's eyes fluttered open as Marcus administered a stimulant injection. Kane? How did you... His voice was barely a whisper, throat dry from dehydration. Easy. Tommy, you're safe now. We're back at Mars Station Omega. Marcus helped Wright sit up slowly. What happened out there? Where's the rest of the crew? Wright's eyes filled with tears as memory returned. They're gone, Marcus. Not dead. Gone. Taken by those things. He gripped Marcus's arm with surprising strength. We have to warn Earth. Humanity is facing something we've never encountered before. Over the next hour, Wright told his story between sips of water and bites of protein bars. After the escape from the alien vessels, the Defiant had drifted in folded space for days while Wright worked frantically to restore normal navigation. When they finally emerged, they found themselves in an unknown star system, completely lost. The crew had begun exploring nearby planets, searching for resources and a way home. That's when they discovered the truth about their attackers. The erasers, as Wright called them, weren't just another alien species. They were something far more ancient and terrible. They consumed entire civilizations, not for resources or territory, but for knowledge. They absorbed the collective experiences, memories, and innovations of every species they encountered. The crew started disappearing one by one. Wright continued, his voice shaking. Not killed, not captured, erased from existence itself. But somehow their knowledge, their personalities, everything that made them human, was being absorbed by those creatures. I watched my friends fade away like they had never existed. Wright had survived by hiding in the ship's quantum drive chamber, the exotic energies providing some protection from the eraser's influence. He had spent weeks alone, slowly going mad with isolation, until he managed to program the ship's autopilot to return to Mars. The journey had taken 3 months of careful navigation through hostile space. "But Marcus," Wright said, grabbing his friend's shoulder, "that's not the worst part. Before they took Captain Rodriguez, she figured out what the erasers really want. They're not just studying humanity, they're preparing for invasion. And now they know everything about our technology, our tactics, our weaknesses." Marcus felt the weight of terrible knowledge settling on his shoulders. Humanity was about to face an enemy that could erase them from existence itself. The warning. Protocol Wright's conditions stabilized over the next few hours, but his story grew more disturbing as his strength returned. The erasers weren't just advanced aliens, they were beings that existed partially outside normal space-time, which explained their ability to simply delete matter from existence. They had been consuming civilizations across the galaxy for millions of years, growing stronger with each species they absorbed. "But here's the thing, Marcus," Wright said as they sat in the ship's mess hall. "Humans are different. Something about our neural patterns, our creative chaos, makes us harder for them to process. That's why they were studying us so carefully. Instead of just erasing us immediately," Marcus pulled up a holographic display of the ship's route home. "You said they absorbed our people's knowledge. What exactly does that mean?" Wright's face darkened. "Imagine every thought, every memory, every skill a person ever had being copied and integrated into a collective consciousness. The erasers don't just learn about their victims, they become them. By now, they have 47 perfect copies of human minds working within their collective. The implications were staggering. The enemy would know human psychology, human tactics, human weaknesses better than humans themselves. Any conventional military response would be anticipated and countered before it could be implemented. "There's something else," Wright continued. "Captain Rodriguez figured out that the erasers have a vulnerability. Their existence between dimensions makes them incredibly powerful, but it also makes them dependent on specific quantum frequencies to maintain coherence in our reality. If we could disrupt those frequencies," Marcus leaned forward, "we could force them back into whatever dimension they came from." "Exactly. But it would require a massive coordinated effort. Every human ship, every space station, every settlement would need to generate the same frequency simultaneously, one planet-killer weapon spread across all of human space." Wright pulled out a damaged data pad containing his research. "I've been working on the calculations during the journey home, the frequency patterns, the power requirements, the timing. It's all here." "But Marcus, we're talking about potentially destroying every piece of human technology in space to save a species." As they discussed the technical challenges, Marcus realized they were looking at humanity's greatest test, not just a war for survival, but a choice between technological advancement and continued existence. The erasers had absorbed countless civilizations by forcing exactly this kind of impossible decision. "Tommy, there's something else we need to consider," Marcus said quietly. "If the erasers can absorb human consciousness, and they now have 47 of our people integrated into their collective, how do we know they haven't already infiltrated human space? How do we know I'm really talking to Tommy Wright and not some eraser copy?" Wright smiled grimly. "Because, my friend, I was hoping you'd ask that question. A real eraser copy would know all of Tommy Wright's memories, but they wouldn't understand the one thing that makes humans truly unique." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small photograph, a picture of his daughter taking her first steps, blurry and poorly composed, but treasured beyond measure. "They can copy our knowledge, but they can't copy our love. Humanity's last stand Within 6 hours of Wright's rescue, Mars Station Omega was buzzing with activity. Emergency protocols activated across human space as Wright's warning spread through secure channels. Admiral Patricia Stone, commander of the Mars Defense Fleet, had assembled every available ship and called for immediate evacuation of non-essential personnel. Marcus found himself in the unlikely position of military advisor, his mechanical expertise suddenly crucial to humanity's survival. Wright's frequency disruption plan required precise coordination between thousands of human vessels, space stations, and planetary defense grids. Every fusion reactor, every quantum drive, every communications array would need to be synchronized to create a galaxy-spanning pulse of disruptive energy. The calculations show we have maybe 48 hours before they arrive, Wright reported to the assembled commanders. My ship's quantum signature led them right back to us. They're coming, and they're bringing everything they have. Admiral Stone studied the tactical displays, showing human forces spread thin across dozens of star systems. Even if this frequency pulse works, we're gambling our entire technological infrastructure on an untested theory. If we're wrong, we'll be defenseless primitives when they arrive. If we're right, Marcus interjected, we'll be the first species in galactic history to defeat the erasers. That knowledge alone might be worth the risk. The next day passed in frantic preparation. Engineers across human space worked around the clock to modify equipment for the frequency pulse. Military commanders positioned their fleets for maximum coverage. Civilian populations evacuated to underground shelters, carrying only essential supplies and precious personal items. Marcus spent those crucial hours aboard the Defiant, fine-tuning the frequency calculations with Wright. The math was incredibly complex, requiring perfect synchronization across light years of space. One miscalculation could render the entire plan useless. As the deadline approached, long-range sensors detected the approaching eraser fleet. 15 massive vessels, just as Wright had described, moving through space with impossible grace. But as they drew closer, the true scope of the threat became clear. Each ship was accompanied by smaller vessels, hundreds of them, constructed from the absorbed technology of countless extinct civilizations. All stations, this is Admiral Stone, came the voice over all frequencies. Eraser fleet detected at the edge of the system. All units prepare for frequency pulse on my mark. Remember, we get one shot at this. Make it count. Marcus watched the tactical display as human forces across the galaxy prepared for the most desperate gamble in their species' history. Fusion reactors cycled to critical levels. Quantum drives built up exotic energy charges. Communications arrays focused their transmission power into devastating coherent beams. The eraser fleet entered the system, their ships rippling with otherworldly energy. Reality itself seemed to bend around them as they prepared their deletion beams. In moments, they would begin systematically erasing every trace of human presence from the galaxy. All units, initiate frequency pulse. Now, across human space, thousands of ships and stations released their coordinated burst of quantum energy. The wave of disruption spread outward at faster-than-light speeds, racing toward the eraser fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, the enemy vessels began to flicker like bad holographic projections. Their organic hulls lost coherence as the quantum frequencies that anchored them to normal space were disrupted. One by one, the massive ships faded away, pulled back into whatever dimension had spawned them. But in their final moments, the erasers sent one last message across all frequencies. A complex pattern of data that every human ship received simultaneously. Wright decoded it first, his face going pale as he read the translation. "What does it say?" Marcus asked. Wright looked up with a mixture of triumph and terror. "It says, 'We remember you, humans. We will return when your technology recovers. Your Creativity has made you valuable beyond measure. Humanity had won their first galactic war, but at a cost that would echo through generations. As their technology slowly rebuilt and their confidence returned, they would always know that somewhere in the spaces between dimensions, an ancient enemy waited patiently for another chance to add human ingenuity to their collection. The Ghost. Ship had delivered its warning, and humanity had listened. Now came the harder task of staying vigilant against threats that existed beyond the boundaries of normal space and time.